Hey, welcome to Let the Light In. Today we've got the Samyang 14 to 24mm f2.8 on the camera. This is a full frame lens coming in at a price point of $1,199 US. Now this is a full frame lens. We are reviewing it for the Sony E-mount. On the bottom, it has a USB-C port for future firmware updates. It sports a 77mm filter thread, and it also comes with weather-sealed construction. On the left-hand side of the lens, you're going to find an AF/MF switch, and it really takes a firm click in order to switch modes, which is actually something that I like about it, because that means you're not going to accidentally flip your focus mode while you're operating the lens, while you're doing your shoot. You're not going to accidentally switch that on yourself and not realize it and mess up some shots. So I really like that it does take a firm click to switch that over from AF to MF. And also on the left-hand side of the lens is a customizable function button, so you can set that to whatever your normal preference is. Talking about the zoom ring and the focus or aperture ring, whatever you would like to call it, something I really like about these rings is that they each have a different rubberized texture grip. And they both of those grips provide a great feel and also really help you differentiate what ring your fingers are on based upon the texture and the sense of touch that you have, that you'll get familiar with while you're operating that lens. So you can, just by feeling it, you're gonna know which ring your fingers are on. However, I do have to say that the zoom ring and that focus ring are right next to each other. They are exactly, one on top of each other. And so that means that when you're operating this lens, and for me who's shooting video, I'm not going portrait style, which would free up my bottom hand to operate those rings in a better manner. I'm shooting, landscape, I'm shooting video. So for me, whenever I go to rotate that zoom ring or focus ring, what happens is my palm ends up hitting the actual camera body. And because this is a smaller lens, I do understand that there's really not a whole lot you can do. Usually I would really want and ask for the zoom ring or the aperture and the focus ring to have a separation in between them on the lens. Although I know that with this lens, we're not really dealing with a whole lot of real estate, so there's not really any other alternatives, but just something I prefer is having a bit of a gap there. But I understand that, they did give us the different rubberized grips in anticipating users having that issue. So it's not something that I necessarily enjoyed about the lens. That is a nitpick of mine. But I also realize there's not much else we could do given the compactness of this lens that we are dealing with. Now, the aperture range is f2.8 to f22, and f2.8 is consistent throughout the zoom range from 14 to 24. It doesn't close down on you. It's f2.8 all the way through. Now, the zoom ring specifically, as far as degrees of rotation that it takes you to rotate from 24 to 14 millimeters, it's about 30 degrees of rotation to complete that full zoom. At 24 millimeters, the barrel of the lens is completely compressed, and as you rotate and widen it up to 14 millimeters, it begins to extend at about a 5 centimeter gap of extension, I would say. So ultimately, barrel extension is very minimal, but there is just a tiny bit of barrel extension there. Moving on to autofocus. Autofocus is powered by a linear stepping motor, and overall it is precise, reliable, and it's also quiet. And you can see in this walking test that I'm performing here, it not only follows focus smoothly, but it also reacquires focus easily and quickly. The minimum focus distance is 7 inches, so you can get super close up. That's 17.78 centimeters. You can really, get in the face of this lens. I'll reach over now. And honestly, you get too close and it just feels awkward, which is kind of why I'm back here in this situation. But you can get really close to your subject, which is nice. As far as focus breathing, at 24 millimeters, results were very good. Little to no focus breathing was noticeable. At 14 millimeters, however, there is some focus breathing present, but it's not terribly too bad. As far as warping, because we're dealing with a wide angle lens, the results kind of differentiated in extremities. So operating at the 24 millimeter focal length, close up, 14 or 24, it didn't matter. There was warping going on. You can see as I take this globe on the desk and I shuffle it into the side of the screen, you can see that that sphere is turning really into an eggy oval, both in 24 and 14 millimeter focal lengths. Now, as far as kind of real world exercises, 14 millimeter stays warpy in a bunch of different scenarios. 14 millimeters is where you're gonna have distortion come in and that warping happen, and it's the least impressive of the two extremities of focal lengths that are available to you on this lens. Now, whenever we bring in a human subject and we go to 24 millimeters and we put the subject a little bit further away, even on the edge of the frame, you can see that at a greater distance, we have better results. And so warping isn't as noticeable anymore. You can see as he steps into the corner of the frame, nothing feels terribly wrong as it did whenever we did our little globe test earlier. So warping kind of depends on both the focal length that you have the lens at, but also how far away from the lens that your subject is. You can see in landscaping, there's not really anything that we can pick up, but we bring it into a room or we bring our subject really close up and we feel that warping and distortion begin to occur. Now, as far as stabilization goes, in camera, I had stabilization set to standard. And I still felt like looking at the results in post, I mean, I've got experience doing handheld video shooting. I'm able to hold it pretty steady, I feel, in my opinion, but I still needed that extra little boost in post through stabilization on in post, because I felt that even handheld with standard stabilization applied in camera, it wasn't enough to really settle it down and give it that smooth, steady feel. Now, this lens is compact. It's weighing at 15.7 ounces, so it's not going to be a heavy addition either to your camera body or to your camera bag. It's clean, it has great color, and it produces sharp images results that are going to give you great looking wide angle shots. And also keeping in mind that having an aperture at f2.8 will give you flexibility in being useful with this lens in different lighting situations. Having the option to zoom in between 14 and 24 is also going to help you in properly framing your shot, although 24 is going to give you the cleaner result, as 14 does have those distortions involved within that wide angle of view. With its close distance and precise autofocus, this could make a great lens for those who are doing lifestyle or vlogging type content, or for those who simply just want to capture landscapes. Its image results are clean, sharp, and you only really have to be concerned here about the distortion of the frame, because when it comes to chromatic aberrations and all kind of other errors, it comes away really clean, really nice. The colors it produces are really pleasing to the eye. It's just the distortion that is really the main problem for this lens. So again, a reminder, this lens is coming in at $1,199 US. It is the cheapest available options for a 14 to 24 millimeter zoom for the Sony E-mount platform. The Sony G Master is coming in at double the price, and the Sigma 14 and 24 is another $400. So there you have it. I hope this review has been informative. If you would like to purchase this lens, the links are down below. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to let the light in.